Indonesia. Indonesia has become a place where many foreign cultures commingle with the diverse native Indonesian cultures. Even today, this can be seen in the different ways Islam is currently being practiced in Indonesia. About 85% of Indonesia is Muslim, and the popular form practiced is called Abangan. These Muslims have salamatans, which build communities that stretch outside of fellow Muslims. Abangan also includes the story of Ramayana, along with other elements that seem to be like Hinduism and Buddhism. Priyayi is also practiced among Indonesian Muslims. Priyayi is called the artistic Islam because it focuses on the messages left by God through art. This shows how Indonesian Islam has been influenced by Confucius beliefs of refinement and how a person is cultured by education. The Indonesian Islam is unlike any other Islam of the world, and Indonesian Buddhism is no different, and at times it became indistinguishable from Hinduism. Although they have very different philosophical doctrines, the practiced religions change upon entering new cultures. Because Hinduism and Buddhism came to Indonesia around the same time in history, their practice among laypersons became meshed. The main evidence displaying harmony of Buddhism and Hinduism lies in the many temples which depict both Hindu gods and Buddhist bodhisattvas in Indonesia. A Javanese Buddhist from the 12th century said, "The one substance is called two, that is, the Buddha and Shiva. They are different, but how can they be divided? Despite differences, there is oneness." The history of Indonesian Buddhism is believed to have started when a Buddhist monk from India took Mahayana Buddhism to a central Javanese queen who made Buddhism the official religion of the 5th century. But little history is written of the Buddhism of Indonesia until other foreign monks came. This leaves us with very little definitive and complete accounts of the Buddhism which developed in Indonesia until the 7th century when a Buddhist pilgrim from China named Yi Jing recorded coming to Palembang in Sumatra. There at Palembang he found over 1,000 monks and a highly developed Buddhist center for the study of Buddhist texts. Yi Jing also visited Srivijaya in southern Sumatra, where there was also Tantric Buddhism. Only a very small number of texts about Srivijaya, written by the Sumatras, have survived through the carvings at Palembang. An overwhelming majority of reports are still from foreign sources. By the end of the 7th century, Tantric magical aid was the main focus of study. One example which became popular was the yantra symbols, which the ruler bestowed upon faithful servants. Here, the ruler also plays the role of religious leader, for the first time in Sumatra and all of Indonesia. In 684, a recording of the king's blessing of a part, which explains the merit of all living beings, depicts him as a bodhisattva. A bodhisattva is one who has attained Buddhahood himself and is now devoted to teaching others the path to enlightenment. This is one example of how Indonesian Buddhists were supplementing tantric techniques with the traditional magical procedures of the time. The Sailendra kingdom ruled East Java, Bali, Lombok, southern Sulawesi, and the coast of Kalimantan in the 8th and 9th centuries. The first official tantric inscription, the stone of Kalurak, is found near the temple of Prambanan in Java and is dated 782. On the stone, in a Manjusri form of Tantra, the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha are compared to Brahman, Vishnu, and Mahesvara. Outside of the inscriptions at numerous temples, the only remaining fragments of text from Bali came in the form of hymns and ritual compilations. The most famous of the Indonesian Sanskrit texts are the Sanghayang Kamahayanikan and the Sanghayang Kamahamanikan Mantrayana, which include Old Javanese analysis. Balinese mantras, like the Javanese, show the mixing of Sanskrit and Balinese in formal ritual. The Sanskrit is used to perform the ritual, while the Balinese is used to reinforce and explain what has happened as a result of the ritual. The Santi, or cursiverter mantras, are good accounts of this. Here, the last comment is relayed in Balinese because the Sanskrit mantras are meant to be held holy from regular language. The Sanskrit is the formal ritual, and the Balinese is the commentary. This is similar in Hinduism, where only the Brahmin priests would use the Sanskrit chants and know their meaning. The mandalas in Bali also reflect the harmony of Hinduism and Buddhism. One example is the Balinese Trayo Ki Yavi Jaya mandala, which depicts both Hindu divinities and Buddhist bodhisattvas. A mandala is a detailed geometric pattern which represents the cosmos metaphysically or symbolically. A two-dimensional mandala can be used during meditation as an object for focusing one's attention. The symmetrical geometric shapes which mandalas have draw the attention of the eyes towards the center. Psychiatrist Carl Jung saw the mandala as a representation of the unconscious self. This sub-reality is projected onto a medium for the study of how one uses the unconscious mind to understand the hidden reality of the world. Borobudur, which was built between 778 and 824 by the Buddhist Sailendra Dynasty, is an example of a three-dimensional mandala, and is the largest Buddhist temple in the world. Borobudur inspired the architecture of Angkor Wat in Cambodia and is known as the first Buddhist monument of Southeast Asia. Borobudur has a total of 6 layers, building on top of each other, with a stupa on the top of the highest floor, which brings the eyes to the very top and the center of the monument, like a mandala. It is believed that Borobudur's imagery is meant to reveal the teachings of the Lotus Sutra. The Buddha Sakyamuni explains why the magnificent stupa exists in the world to Bodhisattva Mahasattva Maharatibana, thanks to the Lotus Sutra. I have not yet arrived at supreme perfect enlightenment before I had heard the lotus of true law, serving for the instruction of the bodhisattvas. But from the moment I heard the lotus of true law, I have become fully ripe for the supreme perfect enlightenment. After my complete extinction, one stupa must be made of precious substances from this form of the proper body of the Tathagata, and other stupas again should be made in dedication or in reference to me. Each of the levels represent a different realm, with the base being the realm of the humans, with 108 Buddha sculptures along the way, which preach the Dharma to the creatures of these realms. The journey to enlightenment is symbolized by 3 round terraces at the top and the clockwise direction that one walks to reach the top. Texts are depicted on prasati on the monument. The hidden Buddhas, which are seated inside of stupas, are only visible at certain times, symbolizing that the truth can only be seen by those who are ripe for bodhi and are capable of understanding the true nature of the Lotus Sutra. The transformation of the world of suffering into that of a paradise after one attains enlightenment is symbolized through the change in stupa's design on the higher terraces. The stupas of the first and second terraces feature a network pattern, while the stupas of the third terrace features a checkboard pattern and an 8-sided harmika, like the description of the paradise of the Lotus Sutra, showing a checkerboard divided by gold threads into 8 compartments. Borobudur is one of 3 closely built temples which form a triad of Buddhist temples. The remaining are Chandi Mendut and Chandi Pawan. Chandi Mendut houses 3 statues which the temple was built around. The Buddha sits in Western style with his feet on a lotus cushion at the center, with Avalokitesvara Bodhisattva to his right and Manjusri Bodhisattva to his left. Avalokitesvara is a demon-like guardian of temples and the protector of the Buddha. Manjusri represents keen awareness from wisdom, intelligence, and realization. Chandi Pawan is located between Borobudur and Mandut. Pawan is believed to have been a temple for pilgrims coming to Borobudur to stop and meditate at so that they could clear their minds before reaching Borobudur. But Pawan better resembles a Javanese Hindu temple, and the decorations indicate that it was once dedicated to Kuvera, the Hindu lord of fortune. Kalpataru wishing trees are a central image on the outer walls, and the first pair of male and female deities on either side of the north corner are no longer standing, but 6 figures around the main cella still remain. The Hindu temple of Prambanan was built after Borobudur by the next Javanese dynasty, the Siwaite, and was believed to be a rival monument to Borobudur because of the political conflict between the 2 kingdoms. Prambanan was said to have been a Buddhist temple